Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Drained. Lost. That's how I felt this past weekend. And no, it's not because anthem protests and Colin Kaepernick are back at the top of the news charts. No. It's that once again, with the game on the line and a last-minute drive with the prospects of winning before you, Sam Ehlinger, quarterback of the University of Texas, turns the ball over one more time. And in the process, more than just a game was lost for UT fans, for Texas fans. Hope was lost along with it. And the truth of the matter is, 1 week into the college football season, the Texas Longhorn fan base isn't the only one with a long look in the mirror, the only one freaking out today. Whether or not you're a Texas Longhorn fan, Michigan Wolverine fan, Florida State Seminole fan, or Miami Hurricane fan, which one of those fan bases truly deserves to freak out? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can answer that question, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Coming up on today's show, I am going to talk to you about whether or not, is it possible that everybody in football, from the players and the analysts to everybody watching and everyone on Twitter, knows how to run the Oakland Raiders better than John Gruden? That, and of course, Nike has decided that Colin Kaepernick will be one of its faces of the 2018 season. And in the process, Nike may have become the face of one of the most divisive issues in the United States of America right now. But first, let's start, if we may, where everyone is freaking out. Or at least fans of some of the biggest college football programs in the country. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. I'm serious. It's only a game in. It's only one of 12. And yet, as I was sitting back in the homeland this past weekend, I finally made it back between the Red and the Rio Grande. A little bit west of where I grew up, I was sitting in the wonderful oasis of Odessa, Texas. And let me tell you two things really quickly about getting out of the Northeast and getting back into college football country. Two quick things that I miss. Number one, I miss watching college football outdoors. I miss being able to sit outside with a TV on and still get to have your Saturday in the sun while watching college football. And I know, you can do that up here, at least for a few more weeks. But man, do I miss outdoor television football watching. And second, I cannot tell you enough, you don't have Mexican food down up here. And the truth of the matter is, you folks out in California with your black beans, you don't have it down out there either. Getting home, getting back to Odessa, the fact of the matter is, if there's an awesome Mexican food dive on every corner in a city of 8.5 million, New York City might be able to find one way, just one way, one location to do some down-home Tex-Mex. Those are two observations before I got to football. But I'm dead serious. I sat there, quite honestly, 2 drives into the first quarter, and I texted a buddy of mine, OMG. He said, settle down, Will. And I said, I can't. I'm on full-on panic mode. Now, the Longhorns gave me a little bit of hope scattered throughout that game, but at the end of the contest, as Texas lost to Maryland, 34-29, I lost more than a game. I lost hope because it all looked so familiar. And Michigan Wolverine fans, as they lost to Notre Dame 24-17. And Miami Hurricane fans, as you got trounced 33-17 by LSU, I want to ask you this. Which one of those games, which one of those outcomes are the closest to truth serum? I'm here to tell you, it's the Miami Hurricanes that truly should freak out today. First, let's start with Texas. Texas coach Tom Herman said, no matter what you saw, it's not all same old, same old. This is different than last year. Listen to Coach Herman.
The people whose opinions that matter the most to me are my bosses, Greg Fenves and Chris Delcani, my family, and then the people in that locker room, the coaches and players. We know the task at hand. We know the difficulties that lie ahead of us. We also know how much better we are now than we were probably at any point last year. We didn't show it in the first quarter and the fourth quarter.
When I tell you that the Texas-Maryland game was not truth serum for the status of Texas football, I can promise you this. It's not any semblance of homerism. Because the truth of the matter is, everybody I knew back in the Lone Star State, everybody that I knew who had any sense of allegiance to the Burnt Orange was absolutely Chicken Little on Saturday. And here's why. Because it reminds you of what the past, almost decade has looked like. 500 ball. You simply cannot lose to Maryland. You can't lose to Maryland 2 years in a row. You can't lose to a Maryland program who doesn't even have essentially a head coach in place. You can't lose to Maryland and continue to believe in optimism, to continue to believe that things are on the upswing. Since Tom Herman's taken over, he's 7-7. 4 of those losses came down to the last final drive. And in all 4 of those losses, quarterback Sam Ehlinger has turned the ball over in every one of those 4 losses, either fumble or interception on a game-deciding drive. However, even though I know Nick Saban turned Alabama around by the second season, and Urban Meyer can do that in Ohio State in his second season, I still believe in Tom Herman. I actually still believe in the 2018 season. I don't think this Maryland-Texas game is going to be emblematic of where this Texas football team is by the end of the year. I think Tom Herman has it on track. It's just not going to be that smooth upward arc that fans like me would like. That brings us to Michigan. Is Michigan Notre Dame indicative of where Michigan is today? Here's Paul Feinbaum of the SEC Network on Golic and Wingo this morning.
At some point, you have to ask the question, what has really changed at the University of Michigan? I think Jim's a better coach than Brady Hoke. And a better coach than Rich Rodriguez, but the program still seems to be stuck on the side of the road, unable to get out of the ditch. So if Jim Harbaugh can't do it, then who in the world can?
The funny thing about freaking out is it's not worth it after one game. But if that one game, if it is so emblematic of what you've been dealing with for so long, I just told you Texas has been dealing with 500 ball, losing games they shouldn't lose. Michigan lost to Notre Dame, and it's less about losing to what I think is a good Notre Dame team, a team that I picked to make the college football playoffs, but more about how they lost. Michigan lost with no offense. Again. Michigan lost a big game against a big-time opponent. Again. Michigan lost with poor quarterback play. Again. Shea Patterson was supposed to come in from Ole Miss and be the savior that Jim Harbaugh has been looking for all these years. But once again, one game in at least, it looks like Michigan doesn't have a quarterback again. But no, I think 10-3, 10-3, and 8-5, although continually failing to win the big game, I think Michigan's going to be okay. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten. I don't think they're going to make the Big Ten championship game. I don't think they're going to make the college football playoffs, but I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to get Michigan back on track. I know 3-4 seasons in, you expect it by now. Again, not everybody's Saban, not everybody's Meyer. Maybe we stop pretending that with Harbaugh and give him just a tiny bit more rope. Nope, that brings us to Miami. Who is the team whose loss is most indicative of who they are? I'm sorry, Miami Hurricane fans, but I think it's you. You didn't really have any big wins last year. You won against a Notre Dame team that was drastically overrated. You won on turnovers. We know that turnovers are the most volatile year-to-year statistic, and you got trounced, absolutely trounced by LSU, and you don't have a quarterback. Malik Rozier is bad. You may, in the end up okay in the ACC because the ACC is not very good, but you'll lose the big games again. You'll lose just like you lost to LSU. If one of these games is truth serum, one of those 3 games, Texas lost, Michigan lost, Miami lost, the one that I think tells the truth about the future of these programs, at least in the short term, it's Miami getting killed by LSU. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You can give me a call, 888-729-3776. Which program truly deserves to freak out? I'll also give you the newly unveiled AP Top 25 in college football, and we got to get to Nike's new advertisement with Colin Kaepernick. All that straight ahead on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
So vaping is pretty popular right now. No ash, no odor, no brainer. But sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. So Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing MyBlue. MyBlue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With MyBlue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. You have a range of delicious flavors to choose from. Just 20 minutes to charge, and you're set all day. Plus, it comes with a free limited lifetime device warranty called MyCare. Ready to make the switch? Try MyBlue today at MyBlue.com. Not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
All our disagreements, all our fights, all our divisiveness, all our miscommunication and misunderstanding of each other, everything that we've yelled about at each other over the last 3 years when it comes to the national anthem and Colin Kaepernick, Nike has decided, you know what? Let's dive straight into that pool. That's coming up in just a moment here on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. But first, which college football fan base should truly freak out? Which college football fan base, the Texas Longhorns, the Michigan Wolverines, the Miami Hurricanes, should really feel like what happened to them this past weekend is so symbolic, so indicative of where they are right now as a program? I've put out there for you that I think the one program, the one fan base that should harbor real concerns would be that of the Miami Hurricanes. But Jake from Ohio, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, how you doing, Will? First off,
good.
I just
What's up,
want to say it's got to be Texas, man. I'm a huge Longhorn fan, and it's been, watching that game Saturday. They still, I like Tom Herman, I believe in him, but he don't have an offensive game plan, an offensive identity. Guys that make good plays, they come out of the ball game, they don't ever hear from them again. The defense took forever to wake up in that game, which I don't understand, considering that team came down to Austin and really handed us one last year. And then, too, if you look at the ramifications of that, how Edwards played, all the hype about Fisher, and then obviously what's going on in Norman. Tom Herman has to get this turned around ASAP, or we could be looking at a long struggle for recruits and everything. And I just don't know if he can get it turned around this year with how Sam played, how the offensive game planning went. I just don't see Herman. I just don't see an offensive game plan from him,
I hear you, Jake. Look, man, I felt the same way as you all Saturday. It all looked so familiar. It all looked so lost. I know you're talking about Keontae Ingram, the freshman running back, was averaging 6 yards a carry. Didn't see him in the fourth quarter. I understand. I just think this as well. I just think Tom Herman's the real deal. And I think you're one game into his second season. A Maryland loss is absolutely embarrassing. Let's see where Texas is halfway into this season. Jack from California, you're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Jack?
All right, thanks for taking my call, Will. I've got to agree with you, man. I'm a Miami alum, and watching that game, I think that's really who we are. We still can't convert on third down, which obviously you have to do if you plan on winning any games. But with, the weakness of the schedule of Miami, they're still going to end up, 9-3 or 8-4. But that game really is who we are as a team, and that's what it's going to be like all season long. It's going to be a rough year to watch us play against any quality teams. Virginia Tech is that game scares me on the schedule. That could be a huge blowout.
I think you're absolutely right, Jack. I think Miami's going to end up 8-3, 9-4. I think they're going to end up possibly in the ACC championship game again. They'll get rolled by Clemson again. They'll go to a bowl game and they'll get beat again. Miami is going to look okay until they play a real program. It's fascinating, by the way. Miami, Michigan, Texas. What's the one common denominator on these programs? They don't have a quarterback, or at least so far they don't. I don't think Miami has a quarterback all season long. I don't think Malik Rozier is going to be an answer at any point this season. Sam Ehlinger at Texas, I'm still retaining a little hope. I'm still, despite those turnovers with the game on the line, thinking he's got enough moxie and Brett Favre in there to turn it into a winner. And Shea Patterson, I'm not ready to sell on yet at Michigan. He needs a little more time. He might just be able to turn the corner there at Michigan. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at progressive.com today. If you've been anywhere near your phone, Twitter, Facebook, a radio, or a television in the past 24 hours, you certainly have been unable to avoid the news that Colin Kaepernick is one of the new faces of Nike's 30th anniversary of its Just Do It campaign. It's got a picture, for now, of Colin Kaepernick that says, if you believe in something enough to sacrifice everything. With that, Nike has totally and utterly commandeered a movement and an issue and turned it away from any kind of real debate, and one could argue it was never really having a debate, or a real type of movement on the actual issue, which it was presumed the kneeling Colin Kaepernick, at least when he originally knelt, has been lost under a flood of dollars, a flood of capitalism. You know, I got to tell you, it's just shocking to me, for one, that everything in our society is now political. Man, you know I came over here from doing political talk, be it at CNN or The Blaze, did stuff for Fox News for a time, was on MSNBC here and there. I came over here to ESPN to get away from political talk. Believe me, I didn't come here to bring political talk to sports. I didn't come here to counterbalance anybody out. Look at the chronology. Look at the timeline of when I joined ESPN. I came here to talk sports. But nothing in our society, nothing, and I'm not just talking about sports, nothing anymore is free from politics. In-N-Out Burger, because they've contributed to both political parties, both the GOP and the Democrats, well, then we must protest In-N-Out Burger. Chick-fil-A has some stances on whatever it may be, gay marriage or opening on Sundays, and that's now a political stance, and you must reflect that in your chicken sandwich choices. Dick's Sporting Goods and its choice to sell firearms. Everything from our burgers to our shoes have to reflect our politics. Whether or not you like your burger animal style or you want moisture-wicking clothes when you work out has to be in line with your political views. And you tell me, is that a healthy symptom of society? Is that a good place for all of us to be? We measure each other and our clothes and our food by whether or not they 100% align with our political beliefs. That's a neurotic, sick society that's headed down a bad path. Now, as for Colin Kaepernick and Nike, I'll just tell you this. With that, with this endorsement, with this sponsorship, Colin Kaepernick has gotten paid by Nike for the cause he's been the front man for. Nike is going to get paid on the back of an issue that meant more than selling shoes. And everybody in the entire line now, because Nike wanted this, different than In-N-Out, different than Chick-fil-A, Nike wanted this. Nike is profiteering off what was a serious issue. Nike has capitalized, monetized your true believer thoughts. Nike is the only person here who's intent on business and getting paid. That's where your social issues sit today in 2018. Coming up, Damian Woody on Kaepernick. And what the hell is going on with the Oakland Raiders? What are they doing? Next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Joining me now on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app is the two-time Super Bowl champion and ESPN's NFL analyst Damien Woody on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Damien, glad to have you, man. Listen, one of the things I've appreciated about our relationship over the last several years is the ability to have what is pretty much, I think, an honest and open conversation on not just whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers should get Le'Veon Bell into camp, but whether or not Colin Kaepernick's protest is moving things forward in a good direction for this country. Now, I know, man, you probably don't like a lot of my points of view. I follow you on Twitter. And, I can only imagine where your areas of disagreement with me lie, but it makes me no less interested in your point of view. So let me just ask you this. Do you think Nike sponsoring Colin Kaepernick, that Colin Kaepernick becomes the face of Nike's 30th anniversary of Just Do It, do you think that's a good thing for what Colin Kaepernick originally knelt for when he was on the sidelines for the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, listen, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I think this whole Nike thing, you got to understand, Nike is a global business, a global iconic business, and it's unlike the NFL, which is primarily based in the United States. So, Nike has done its due diligence. You can't become as big as Nike and as successful and not do your research on who your core demographic is and all those type of things, and be willing to take the risk of putting Colin Kaepernick as kind of the face of this 30th anniversary deal. So I don't have a problem with it. I know there's this backlash going on by I guess a certain segment of the society that questions whether or not that Colin Kaepernick taking money from Nike, does it somehow diminish the bigger picture with Colin Kaepernick and what he's trying to accomplish, and B, with the whole sacrifice? Because I think a lot of people are equating sacrifice with the military, but there's so many different ways that people can sacrifice. So again, I don't have a problem with it, but this is a good argument. This is a good debate to have.
Well, talking to Damien Woody here on the Will Cain Show about Colin Kaepernick and Nike getting into business together, let's take both of those points you made and work backwards. Let's start with sacrifice. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Damien. I'm going to be honest with my audience listening right now. I haven't gotten into this issue much yet today, but I'm having trouble mustering up the outrage or the celebration that either side of this issue is embodying today. I'm not that outraged, and I'm certainly not celebrating the marriage. But I will say this, Damien, the concept of sacrifice does rub me the wrong way. Colin Kaepernick sacrificed, if anything, a multi-million-dollar career, and he's going to go on to continue to make multi-millions of dollars. I don't have to equate it to the military to say that's not exactly what we think of when we talk about sacrificing everything. I don't know if that's Kaepernick's fault. It's perhaps Nike's fault. But the wording of that particular card, right, in the whole, they had Serena Williams and Odell, the Colin Kaepernick card about sacrificing everything, I do think that's a little tone deaf. It's a little bit lacking in context of what's going on in other parts of our world.
Yeah, but I think the way people are equating sacrifice is, to me, is misconstrued. It doesn't have to be necessarily life or death. There's so many different ways that you can equate sacrifice. And you look at Colin Kaepernick, one of the ways, what the whole message is, he sacrificed his playing career, because we all know that when he decided to take a knee, that it was going to be a controversial issue. And fast forwarding now, obviously he hasn't played in 2+ years, and he got this collusion case going on with the National Football League. So in essence, he sacrificed something. He did sacrifice as far as his playing career is concerned by taking a knee and moving in that direction. Yes. So there is an element of sacrifice there.
That's fair, Damien.
And what my problem, I'm sorry, Will, but I think my one issue, and this whole thing has turned tribal. That's what's really going on. And I agree with you what you said from the outset is that there's, I don't agree with the outrage on both sides. I think people have just been too hyper about this whole thing, but I do think there's an element of sacrifice when it comes to what this campaign is all about.
Okay, I wouldn't deny that there's an element of sacrifice. It's whether or not Colin Kaepernick has sacrificed everything. But we don't need to get into a debate about the words specifically used in the advertisement. Damian Woody here on the Will Cain Show. I want to get to you in just a moment because I got to get your opinion on the Raiders and Khalil Mack in just a moment. But I want to do one more thing with you because we've had these kind of conversations. Listen, man, this is what I think. I think I've been asking, and a lot of people accused me of being intentionally dense, right? Obtuse. What are the specifics of the protest? What's the purpose of the knee? What needs to be changed? And one of the things I said is if you're not specific, you can become a vehicle for anything, right? It's a cliche, but if you mean everything, then you mean nothing, right? And I do think at various times specific things have been mentioned, but I've also seen other specific things mentioned. I've also seen it be about President Trump's tweets or about President Trump himself. It has been so many different things. What I think is now, Damian, it's sad to me that you arrive at a place where today, you know what's about? Nike's bottom line. Like you said, Nike's not stupid. This is a business decision. Nike's ready to cash in on somebody else's issues, somebody else's protests. And that's what happens when you're not specific. That's what happens when you're everything. All of a sudden, a multinational, big global corporation steps in and goes, you know what else it is? It's part of my bottom line.
Listen, I think there's an element to that, but I think people who understand the issue and what Colin Kaepernick has said from the beginning understand that the message has not been construed. It's been other people, outside influences, outside forces that's try to misconstrue the message, and that gets muddied in this era of social media where people want to interject and say this and say that. But I think if anyone wants to go back, and this information is readily available, they can look online and see exactly the issues that Colin Kaepernick has said from the beginning.
All right, one last thing here with Damian Woody, two-time Super Bowl champ, ESPN NFL analyst on the Will Cain Show. Let's move on. I want to get one football thing with you, Damian. I mean, on the field football, or at least GMing football. Everybody, Damian, everybody is crushing the Raiders for dealing Khalil Mack, for the price they got for Khalil Mack, for the decisions John Gruden's going to make. I only have this to ask you. I have this thing in me, Damian. If everybody thinks one thing, I feel like something's being missed. Is it possible this wasn't a horrible deal for the Raiders? Is it possible they couldn't afford both Carr and Mack? Is it possible they made the best of a bad situation?
No, this nonsense. This is total nonsense. The fact that they couldn't afford, Khalil Mack. The salary cap rises every year, and it's going to continue to rise as TV money and other streams of revenue comes into the National Football League coffers. So this whole notion that we can't afford to have two $20 million a year players, it's ridiculous. It's going to happen. It's going to happen whether it be now or whether it be next year, 2 years from now. This is going to happen because of the salary cap going up. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about the Raiders not being able to afford it.
All right, I got you. It's this contrarian thing. All right, I got to let you go, Damian. Appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime.
Take care, Damian. Hey, really quick, Cerruti, did I say David Carr again? Like, now I'm so gun-shy. It's like I'm going to say San Diego Chargers forever. Did I say David or did I say Derek Carr? I don't even know anymore.
I'm going to just assume you did because, that's just something you screw up weekly.
Thank you for that. All right. Coming up, are the Raiders the dumpster fire that Damian just described, that everyone seems to know, except, of course, me? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I don't do it on purpose, but I swear to you, if everybody in the room has arrived at the same conclusion, everybody's backslapping and high-fiving each other about all arriving at the same point of view, I sit there and go, whoa. Something's wrong. This can't be right. Everybody in sports media, and for that matter, it seems like everybody playing the game of football at the NFL level is saying John Gruden, the Oakland Raiders, are a massive garbage fire, dumpster fire of mistakes, and trading Khalil Mack is an absolute loss for them. And it does make me wonder, just because everyone is saying it, whoa. Are we missing something here? That in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. But first, I want to take a couple calls here. Ryan in Georgia, you're on the show. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Will? Love your show.
Thank you.
Hey, so I feel like I bring a unique perspective to this whole Kaepernick thing. First of all, I'm a Niners fan. Also, more importantly, I'm a veteran, served 8 years, have a Purple Heart, deployed. I actually watched the Niners Super Bowl in Afghanistan. And I'd say at least 75 to 80% of a lot of the fan outrage against Kaepernick is civilians. And as a veteran, I know there's been several people who have voiced this opinion as well, but it doesn't offend me. I deployed. I protected our freedoms. And if he wants to peacefully protest and take a knee, I completely support that. He's not doing anything violent. His approach is even-keeled. My issue is with all the civilians and all that outrage. And I don't understand why they're so eager to protect people, especially veterans, when they didn't raise the right hand and make the same sacrifice we did. And then secondly, I would say that on the Kaepernick front, I'm not saying that he wasn't blackballed at all, but as a Niners fan, he wasn't that great of a quarterback. I put him in the realm of Tebow. He was sensational. He had very great performances, but his average to poor performances far outweighed his actual quarterback prowess. So that's my 2 cents. I appreciate you taking my phone call. I'll take your answers off air. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Great call. Thank you for your service as well. One of the things I tried to avoid from the beginning is making this a conversation, at least my contribution to this conversation, about the military. I've never said personally that I found Colin Kaepernick's protest a direct insult to those that have served. And I hear you, Ryan, and you say it is not to you and most of the guys you say you served with. I know there are others who have served who do feel differently. But to me, it doesn't matter because Kaepernick was fairly clear in the beginning about this not being in relation to the military. And yet still, I did find myself in the category of people who were offended by the protests. And I can tell you quickly why I think it's worth revisiting for the moment. I found Kaepernick's kneeling before the American flag during the national anthem a broad indictment of the United States of America and its values. The United States of America is the culmination of the best of humanity. Now, if you doubt that, I invite you to a history course. Look at the values and the achievements, both tangible achievements and ideologies that have culminated with the amount of freedom and accomplishment in the United States of America. We are far from perfect, but we are, quite honestly, the greatest achievement of humanity. A society based in human individual freedom. Now, I understand once again we're imperfect, and Kaepernick, in his estimation, is pointing out those imperfections. I just simply found his form of protest too broad an indictment towards something that I and many others hold very dear. Yes, he has the right. No, I don't think it was about the military. Still, I found it insulting. That doesn't mean I won't engage on the issues that he wants to talk about. That doesn't mean I don't think there are issues to address underneath. But now that Nike's got the steering wheel, now that Nike's cashing the checks, I fear those issues are far in the rearview mirror. One more. Cole from Georgia, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, Will, how are you?
What's up, man?
Had a little house cleaning I had to do. Last week I called in, and after I hung up, you guys did some ranking of callers.
Uh-huh.
And you ranked me in the top 3, which I appreciated. I really did. But then Travis had to go and call me a fraud. So
he did?
Travis and I have beef now.
Yes.
Oh. There's Bubba. You've got Bubba on your side already. I'm going to have to roll back the tape on that. I don't remember. Did Travis call you a fraud, Cole?
He said Cole is a fraud.
I think it actually was somehow related to me because I think Cole said he liked me or something. And it's like, well, then Cole also must be a fraud or something. Something ridiculous from Travis.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can set up the death match between Cole and Travis. Let's see if we can get that done before football season's over. All right, Cole. Still top 3, though, buddy.
Yeah, definitely top 3, I think, for sure.
No, is that what you think, Bubba?
Oh, you disagree? Right. You disagree? That's not very nice.
No, I think he's top 3. I just know your motivations. This is you're like Nike.
My motivations.
You're in this for you.
I think he's a top 3 caller.
Cole.
I'm in it for the show, and he's a top 3 caller.
Cole PI.
PI's up there, yeah.
Yeah. Don't let him suck you in, Nuno. What Bubba's doing here is like what Nike's doing. He's making this about him. It's not really about whether or not Cole was a fraud or he's top 3. Bubba already saw somebody in alignment with him, and he started cashing the checks. He's like, yep, we'll take that one all the way to the bank.
Top 3 caller. Careful. Great job, Cole.
2 firsts, a 2019 and 2020, a 3rd and 20, and a 6th in 2019. That's what the Oakland Raiders got for Khalil Mack. And everybody is absolutely crushing them, saying, it's a bad deal. How dare you let go of Khalil Mack? Who's running the shop over there? What's wrong with John Gruden? I just have to tap the brakes for a moment and go, well, how many teams are paying guys top dollar on both sides of the ball? How many teams can afford this type of thing? Is it possible? If everybody thinks they're right, then they're wrong? That's straight ahead. That will continue the conversation over Kaepernick and Nike, as well as the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. So Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing MyBlue. With MyBlue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. Just click and go. Try MyBlue today at myblue.com. Not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Is Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa? Is he the LeBron James of college football? That in just a moment on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and in live moving pictures on ESPN News. Give us a call, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. College football, including who should be the college football fan bases with their finger on the panic button, and Colin Kaepernick's new marriage to Nike coming up here in this hour of the Will Cain Show. But first, I'm telling you, man, I don't do it for effect. I don't do it out of strategy or planning. Maybe it's just instinct. But if everybody in the room agrees on something, there's something inside of me that goes, whoa, 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 are they getting it wrong? Whoa, whoa, whoa. The likelihood that everybody is right somehow, to me, seems incredibly low. Everybody is crushing the Oakland Raiders. Everybody's crushing John Gruden on trading Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears, wherein he got a 6-year, $141 million deal with $90 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, and he did it just days after Aaron Donald at the LA Rams claimed that same title. In fact, that affected, according to John Gruden, the Raiders' decision on Khalil Mack. Listen.
Well, I'm not going to ever speak for our players. You're going to have to ask them for yourself. I'll just let it go at that. I think there's obviously some surprise, some shock, but deep down I think some people realized it was a tough, long, drawn-out negotiation. At the end, something had to happen.
Hey, Rudy, do you remember that time that we all got in a big fight on the show and then, Bubba got mad at me Hold on. Let me just. Hold on. I just want to see if I can rack my brain here, because sometimes I misremember things. Wasn't there something about like sometimes the chair that he wheels around in is far away from the board? Just correct me if I get any of the details wrong.
No,
okay?
keep going.
And in order to play the right piece of sound, I need to have it on the sheet. Just double check. Was that on the sheet? The one I wanted to play? The one about Aaron Donald?
Yeah, it was
just
on the
double
sheet.
Checking.
Yep.
My iPad's a little far from my eyes. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. Yeah. And then I got chastised for not leading us into the right piece of sound with a hint based upon how it's written on which one you want, and don't leave him up in the air having to just guess, right? Did I get that right?
Hints are important. Hints are important.
Hints are important, right? So like a dog in a dog and pony show who's been trained, I know what I need to do and what I need to say to get to the right piece of sound. Now, just help me out here, Bubba. What did I do wrong this time?
Well, see this one partly on me. I'll take some of the blame on this one. But so what we were doing back here,
accountability.
We were talking about our fun committee eliminator pool for our ESPN radio team, and we were trying to figure out how to rejoin last year's league. And then I heard all of a sudden you say something about Gruden, and so someone in the room said play the first one. I hit the first one, and so I'll accept some responsibility.
So we had a 1-3 shot.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity,
I'm happy to accept some responsibility on this one.
Right. I'm and just for my own edification, because I'm always interested in getting better, and you're only accepting some of the responsibility because the rest of it lies where.
Well, we were talking, so people were talking to me. I was engaged in a conversation again about the ESPN Radio Fund Committee Eliminator Pool,
right,
which we hope to have signed up for everyone. So we were all talking in here, and again, someone said play the first one. I don't know who. And they said play the first one, so I did it. So I just followed directions. I hit the first one, and turns out it was the wrong one. So yeah,
let's see if we can do it again. I'll try from the top. Okay?
Yeah.
Ready?
Do your whole thing, and let me see if I can figure out which one you wanted.
Okay. Do me a favor. Will you wheel your chair over to the soundboard real quick?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm looking at the screen too.
Okay.
So
good.
yeah, let's see.
Okay,
I got
good.
All right,
Excellent.
On the reaction.
Go ahead and highlight it this time. How's that?
Okay. Here we go.
Well, if you knew it was the third one, why didn't you tell me then?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Context clues need to be more.
No, yeah. Just give me your same toss, and we'll see if we can.
Proper nouns and names. Okay. So as it turns out, Aaron Donald's record-setting contract just days before Khalil Mack's new record-setting highest-paid defensive player in the league contract. Well, for the Raiders, it was heavily influenced by what happened with Donald. Play cut 1, 2, 9, 4, 6. Third one on our sheet says how Aaron Donald deal affected the trade. It's approximately 12 seconds. Take it away, Bubba.
How would I describe myself? I would describe myself as a music maven.
Close.
Well, pretty much set the stage of what it was going to be. $90 million guaranteed is an astronomical number. It's phenomenal, I think, for the players. Great for him, obviously. But that was something we could not do.
All right. Finally found it. A little trip through the Music Maven portfolio, landed on our way to the Aaron Donald contract. Here's the question, in all seriousness. How many teams can afford to have the highest paid defensive player and one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league? How many teams can afford to go both sides of the ball like that? Because John Gruden, the Raiders, is saying they're not one of them. Nuno, you have it. You were talking to me about it during the break. We did this last week. How many teams are truly ponying up on both sides of the ball?
There's not a lot. I know the Panthers are one of those teams where their cap allocation, they have a huge hit on with Cam and then Kawan Short. The Vikings have that huge hit with Kirk Cousins, and then a lot of guys that are in that $10 to $15 million range. The Lions have that with Ziggy Ansah and Stafford, but Ansah is with the franchise tag, and then the Giants. And when you look at a lot of these teams, it tells you that they're not that good.
The teams that are paying two guys. The Giants are paying, you're talking about Odell and Eli? Is that where that money's going?
They're paying Eli and actually Olivia Vernon and Janoris Jenkins.
And it's not just about both sides of the ball. I mean, the one exception, your point is well taken, that none of these teams who are doing this are that good. I guess you could say, well, look at the Falcons. They're paying Matt Ryan and Julio Jones at high rates. It's not really about what side of the ball you're on. It's how many guys can you afford to put up in the highest paid brackets at their position. But the truth of the matter is Julio Jones is only 11th anyway when it comes to receivers at this point. So all I'm saying is Gruden might have a point. The Raiders might have been behind the 8 ball here. This is a hard thing to pull off, having that much salary cap dedicated to 2 players. Everybody's crushing the Raiders. But I don't think they were in an enviable position. I don't think many teams were in a position, or many analysts were in a position, to make a decision that came out that much better for the Silver and Black. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone on the ESPN app. I know it's not on your sheet, and I understand this could throw you off. But, Bubba, there's a piece of sound, and I don't think it's floating out there randomly. It's probably somewhere within an arm's reach of Dan Orlovsky talking about Tua Tagovailoa and what he means for not just the Alabama Crimson Tide, but for college football. What are the chances I toss it to you right now and you play that piece of sound? 3, 2, 1.
I'm not a gangster rap maven.
Exactly. That's exactly the one I was looking for. Coming up, is it possible we underestimated both Tua and Alabama? Former Tide quarterback Greg McElroy joins me to let us know, hey, is Tua the next LeBron James of college football? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be pushed off of ESPN News. I would encourage you, go onto your phone, stream the Will Cain Show on the ESPN app. I want to talk to you more about Colin Kaepernick and Nike. I want to walk through the issues, give you my take, tell you what I think's been co-opted, what's gone wrong, and where the original sin lied that made this whole thing go awry for almost everybody involved in the conversation. But for now, a different conversation. Former Alabama quarterback and current ESPN college football analyst Greg McElroy is brought to you by Goodyear. When you put in the hours, the reps, and the heart, nothing can keep you from being blimp-worthy. Goodyear, more driven. Greg, Dan Orlovsky, college football analyst for ESPN, former NFL quarterback as well, man, he's comparing Tua, Alabama's young quarterback, to LeBron James in college football. And everybody, Greg, seems to be writing the article about, oh my God, if Alabama now has a quarterback like this, batten down the hatches and shut down the season. Are you in the same camp?
I'm very impressed by Tua, but to compare him to a transcendent talent like LeBron James feels a little bit overly dramatic, wouldn't you say? I would compare him favorably in skill set to like a Steve Young with the way he kind of creates and has some miraculous qualities. But LeBron James, really the greatest of all time, arguably, besides Michael, of course. It seems like a bit of a reach, but I appreciate where Dan's coming from.
Hey, man, one of the things, and I ask you this because I'm just driven out of curiosity when I read this, they all talk about these articles. Look what Alabama did with game manager quarterbacks, and they're saying Tua is a game changer. What they say, Greg, quite honestly, is they say Alabama's never had a quarterback like this, and we've never seen an Alabama team be able to soar to offensive heights like what they might be able to do this year. Man, does that rub you the wrong way? Does that get you a little TO'd?
Not really. I mean, if you really want to take it that way, the thing is, back when I was playing and AJ and the other guys, I mean, we were asked to take care of the football. Now, if you were to put us in Texas Tech's offense, we would have thrown for 5,000. We played in the NFL. It's not like, it was maybe not as good as Tua. No, heck no. But that's all right. Like, I'm okay with my career. I don't have any regrets or feeling as though I hadn't done anything or accomplished anything.
Yeah. I'm
Tua
with you, man. You
different.
tell me about Graham Harrell and what you would have done with Kingsbury? Absolutely, buddy.
But in all seriousness, though, Tua really is. He's a difference maker, but Nick has also evolved over time, too. knowing that it's a little easier now to win on offense, and you kind of have to keep up with the Joneses. That transition happened a few years ago when Auburn started running a bunch of tempo and Ole Miss started getting Alabama into shootout-type games, so they had to open it up. So it's the right time and the right place for the right player, and that's exactly what Tua seems to be. I mean, this kid's a difference maker. I mean, he really is. He's got instincts that you just can't quite coach or really even comprehend. Like the first touchdown pass where he ran around and threw it to the back right corner of the end zone. Like, who sees that guy? Who makes that throw? Like, that is like against the rule book 101, and he pulled it off, and it was miraculous.
Former Alabama quarterback Greg McElroy here on the Will Cain Show. So Auburn looked awesome. Alabama looked awesome. LSU looked awesome. I'm sure Georgia, we all think Georgia's going to be amazing. They're playing, when they play somebody real, we'll know for sure. But, SEC, Greg, I don't know whether to think the conference is going to beat each other up and knock some of these guys out of contention, or it's going to be another year with two. And if it is two, I don't know who it is, Greg. You can't just say Alabama and Georgia anymore because Auburn is in this thing, right?
Absolutely. Now, Auburn and LSU are going to play each other in 2 weeks, so we'll have a little more clarity there. Georgia goes on the road to South Carolina in one of their tougher matchups of the year. That's going to be this weekend. So we're going to have this thing settled out. It always looks this way. We always jump to these ridiculous conclusions. And right now, Will, you're telling me, I would imagine, that the SEC is as good as it's ever been and Big Ten East stinks, right? Given the way Michigan State, and Penn State played, because that's the narrative right now. That's the narrative. But we don't need to really jump to that point because there's a lot of football to be played. And the SEC, while they did beat up on some teams that were perceived to be quite good, they had favorable matchups. Like LSU beat Miami. Miami, I don't think, is very good. Auburn beat Washington. Okay, it was in Atlanta, where it's 90 miles from Auburn, Alabama, and they sold 40,000 tickets to Washington 7,500. Like, it was a favorable weekend from a matchup standpoint for the SEC. So let's not make these grand overtures about the strength of the league just yet. Now, is it the best league based on week one's performances? Yes. But is it on another level from where it's been in recent years? Probably not. It just depends on how they match up, where the matchup takes place, and how the ball kind of rolls out, and whether or not these teams take care of their own business.
Okay, that's a perfect segue, though, man, because no, I'm not crushing the Big Ten today. I'm not doing that take yet, but I will tell you this, Greg. And again, we're talking to Greg McElroy here on the Will Cain Show. I did ask this at the top of my show. Take Texas lost to Maryland. Michigan's lost to Notre Dame. Miami's lost to LSU. And you can throw in Florida State's lost to Virginia Tech if you want, or hell, you can have Tennessee as well, okay? Which of those programs and their loss which one deserves, in your estimation, Greg, to hit the panic button? Which one weekend goes, you know what, that game reveals really who you are and not just a collective week one freakout?
Probably Florida State. And I really don't think I'm prisoner of the moment based on just how pathetically bad that performance was last night. But we're looking at a team that went 7-6 last year and had to schedule an additional game in the regular season at the end of it against Louisiana Monroe to get to bowl eligibility. And they showed no improvements last night, and they looked out of sorts. That was the problem to me. Look, Willie Taggart's a great recruiter. It's his first year, and it's tough to really jump to a conclusion after only one performance. It's not fair. It's not fair to Willie Taggart because he's actually trying to employ a different system than what Jimbo Fisher employed over the last several years. But, man, they looked unorganized. They look like they didn't have an identity offensively. They had no familiarity along the offensive line, which has been a huge point of contention of late. The defense had their moments, but they were completely exposed on the offense side of the football, and that's Willie Taggart's calling card. To not have a plan that early in the season when you've had 9 months to prepare and put into place a plan so you look good week one, and to have Virginia Tech come home on a primetime environment and to lay an egg that was the size of the egg that was laid last night, man, that's troubling. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I'm a little concerned about how this season's going to turn out for them because it doesn't get a whole lot easier. They got a tough schedule lying ahead as well.
I've got not much time, but I want to ask you this one. This is the question I asked. I left Florida State out of it, talking to Greg McElroy in the Will Cain Show. I said between Texas, Michigan, and Miami, the truth serum those losses, which one tells the most about their program? I honestly said Miami because I heard you say it. You don't think Miami's very good, and I don't think they are either. And they ran into a real opponent just like they did last season, and they really came to understand who they are. That's what I thought between those 3 losses.
That would be the one that I'd point to. And Miami, because they're in year 3 of Mark Richt's rebuild. I mean, it's a couple of years in. Herman's in year 2. I'm just not as concerned about Texas. They're playing freshmen. And, yeah, it was ugly, but you had a feeling that was going to happen. Maryland got the best of them last year. Maryland was emotional and playing for their fallen teammate. It was a special day for the Maryland Terrapins football team, so you thought that they'd play better, and their quarterback's not even on campus yet. Like, I look at Texas, and I don't think Sam Ehlinger is going to be the long-term answer there. They're going to have to recruit someone that is a difference maker, like a Vince Young, or someone that's capable. I mean, Sam Ehlinger's a little tapped out. He didn't look any better on Saturday than he did at any point last year. So that's concerning. Miami, though, Clemson is starting to run away with it, obviously, in the ACC. That's been happening over the last few years. And then you look at Virginia Tech's performance last night, and you think, man, tell you what, Virginia Tech looks like they're extremely well coached and have dudes that we didn't know about. And, by the way, they're young this year. This was supposed to be a rebuild year for Virginia Tech, and it might be a bounce-forward year. So Miami's probably the team that I'd be most concerned about. Michigan still has talent, and Notre Dame was really good. It was a buzzsaw type of game that they ran into in week 1 on the road. So I'm going to hold on Michigan before I completely throw them out with the bathwater just yet.
Good stuff, man. I agree with you. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate your time today.
You're the man, Will. Talk to you soon, brother.
That's former Alabama quarterback and ESPN college football analyst Greg McElroy on The Will Cain Show. Coming up, the NFL has released a statement on Nike, its official apparel partner, making Colin Kaepernick the face of its latest ad campaign. I'll lay it out for you next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
So vaping is pretty popular right now. No ash, no odor, no brainer. But sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. So Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing MyBlue. MyBlue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With MyBlue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. You have a range of delicious flavors to choose from. Just 20 minutes to charge, and you're set all day. Plus, it comes with a free limited lifetime device warranty called MyCare. Ready to make the switch? Try MyBlue today at MyBlue.com. Not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and you can join the conversation. 888-SAY-ESPN, that's 888-729-3776. Also, you can also join the conversation on Twitter, on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses, plus an extra bouquet and a vase, for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. It's been anticipated that the NFL might have something to say about Colin Kaepernick's new endorsement deal with Nike that makes him the face of the 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. Kaepernick, along with other athletes like Odell Beckham Jr. and Serena Williams, are the front of this new reboot of Just Do It. The NFL just released its statement. It says the following. The National Football League believes in dialogue, understanding, and unity. We embrace the role and responsibility of everyone involved with this game to promote meaningful, positive change in our communities. This is said by Jocelyn Moore, the NFL's Executive Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs. She goes on. The social justice issues that Colin and other professional athletes have raised deserve our attention and action. According to ESPN's own Dan Graziano, correct me if I get this wrong, guys. Nuno, I know you were just talking about this. Graziano is suggesting the NFL did not see this Kaepernick Nike advertising campaign before it was released. Is that correct, Nuno?
That is what Dan Graziano is reporting, correct.
Thank you. So let me tell you something. First of all, Nike's not stupid. Nike is a global, multinational, multi-billion-dollar organization. Nike, I'm sure, game planned this from worst-case scenario to best-case scenario, all with the intent and purpose and the strategy and scoring out every possible scenario to see how it would affect Nike's bottom line. Many are pointing out today Nike stock is down something like 3%. But you know who else is down? Adidas. You know who else is down? Puma. They're both down around the 2.5% range. It's a lot of footwear stocks down today. Did this affect Nike's bottom line? I don't know. We're going to find out over a longer period of time as people across at least social media are suggesting they're going to boycott Nike. Not unlike there were calls to boycott In-N-Out a week ago or Chick-fil-A some months ago. I lamented a little bit earlier in the show the idea that everything in our society, from whether or not you like your burger animal style or you need moisture-wicking clothes for your workout, has to align with your political beliefs. You are absolutely 100% morally integrity through every aspect of your life. And I just think that is a sign of not a healthy society, but a neurotic society. Still, I do find Nike's endorsement with Colin Kaepernick, Nike's diving into the fray of a divisive social issue in our society, the absurd conclusion of a protest that has been ill-defined from the beginning. I have been somebody that asked from day one, give me specifics. Now look, I had Damian Woody on the show earlier who said, if you don't know, then you're purposely not trying to know. Incorrect. I've invested in knowing these kinds of issues before I ever had a sports media microphone. I've listened to Chris Long, Malcolm Jenkins, Colin Kaepernick, Aaron Reed, Bomani Jones, Michael Smith, Damian Woody. I've listened to as many voices as I can. And I know, by the way, I know that at its core, the protest was about the unarmed killing of black men. The seen injustice and unaccountability when it comes to presumed unjustified killings. And I use those words very specifically because the truth of the matter is, by the way, I'd like to ask Nike what its position on this is. What is it exactly Nike is saying here? Is Nike suggesting the statistics that say black men are being killed at a higher rate, unarmed black men are being killed at a higher rate, are borne out through crime statistics, through policing statistics, that it's as cut and dried as that? Is Nike suggesting that officers should be fired when there's any kind of allegation, or that they should go on unpaid leave? Is that how we deal with situations that still need to go through fact-finding? I'm not sure exactly what Nike is endorsing because the truth of the matter is the protest, as it evolved over time, took many different forms. Kaepernick himself at one point took a stage and talked about the damn literacy rate in Cuba. There have been issues with using terms like social injustice or racial justice. See, these are huge pots. These are big umbrella terms that anything can be poured into. And the truth of the matter, a lot of things have been poured into them. Malcolm Jenkins advocated for prison reform. Players knelt in opposition to President Trump. President Trump's tweets became the focus at various times. There is an idea out there when it comes to politics and protests that you should never define. You should never narrow down. You should never specifically say what it is you're about. Because then the protest has an end date. It has an accomplishment goal. If you're wrong, you could lose. You could lose in debate. You could lose in research. You could lose in statistics. If you win and you have an issue that is clearly identifiable and clearly solvable, when it's solved, it's over. But see, if a protest is everything, it can also be nothing. A protest that isn't defined down to its specifics. Here's what I want changed. Here's how the protest ends. These are the goals. These are the terms. Not broad, but narrow. Not wide, but specific. Something that is everything can become nothing. And I would suggest to you, when Colin Kaepernick is being paid what is presumed to be millions by Nike, when Colin Kaepernick is going to make tons of money, when Nike, who's about their bottom line and how this is going to affect them. And like I said at the beginning, I don't think Nike's stupid. I think Nike knows exactly what it's doing. I don't think Nike's going to take a hit. I think Nike's in it to make money. And when Nike and Kaepernick and everything about this protest has been monetized and capitalized, let me tell you what won. Capitalism won. The minute your protest has a corporate sponsor, the minute your revolutionary becomes the face of an endorsement campaign, your protest has gone from being about everything to nothing to a big global multinational corporation's bottom line. That's the risk you run. That's what happens when you avoid narrowly tailored specifics with accomplishable goals. That's what happens when anybody can read into it what they want. It means Nike can too. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Next, I'll take your calls. Plus, the Steelers are not happy with Le'Veon Bell, who hasn't shown up yet. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. First, let's get to some of your calls. Carlton in Tampa, you're on the Will Cain Show.
That blind squirrel, Will Cain, may finally have found some nuts in his ruminations on the Khalil Mack trade. But before I get to that, can we talk about Nike's new Coke moment here? Because this is going to blow up in their face like they've never imagined. I love this idea of promoting a guy who was 28 and 30 in his pro career. He was 3 and 16 in his final 2 years of his pro career. He made $43 million while assembling that horrible record, and who's now going to be paid millions of dollars by Nike to go out there and say he sacrificed everything, okay? What Colin Kaepernick really did was he sacrificed the team unity of the San Francisco 49ers, who had different opinions about his kneeling, and he caused all of his fans to boo him every time he went onto the field, so he sacrificed their chances to actually win a game at home. And now, in our fraud-riddled world, he is now being promoted as the big sacrificer when he is actually the most narcissistic guy I've ever seen in my entire life, with his, pig socks alienating police forces around the country, and his Castro T-shirt alienating all people that don't believe leftists have the answer to all of our problems, as well as the entire Miami Dolphin fan base, and his portraying of Ray Lewis, Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, who was working his butt off to get him hired by the Ravens, as the equivalent of a vile Uncle Tom character in Django, or at least not contradicting his girlfriend when she did that, and also, of course, insulting Steve Bisciotti, who was contemplating hiring him. This is just an absolute joke, and Donald Trump is going to latch onto this, and I am no big fan of Donald Trump, but he is going to marshal his supporters to burn their Nike gear, and a lot of them are going to do it. I think this is the biggest miscalculation since New Coke. And Coke, by the way, focus grouped that 15 Ways to Sunday and actually came up with it, and it is considered the epitome of corporate failure. And I think Nike may have superseded. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is, before we get to your agreement with me on Khalil Mack, here's the thing. I've thought about this from the beginning. I'm having trouble mustering up the outrage that I hear in you when it comes to Colin Kaepernick's endorsement campaign with Nike. Nike, do what you want. Maybe it'll be a huge mistake. And Colin Kaepernick, I'm glad you found some kind of gainful employment. What I think I take issue with, and I hear it from you right now, Carlton, as well, and I think many others, is the use of the word sacrifice, and not just the use of the word sacrifice, but the concept of sacrificing everything. That's so clearly, as you laid out, far and away from what the real concept of sacrificing everything is. Did Colin Kaepernick lose his job in the NFL? He did. But sacrificing everything, we could come up with a list of thousands who could fulfill those requirements. Colin Kaepernick wouldn't come near the concept of sacrificing everything.
He lost his job not because of the protest. He lost his job because of the pig socks and the Castro T-shirt, and how he addressed, how he prepared for his Miami Dolphins visit by wearing a Castro T-shirt, and by how he insulted Bisciotti and Ray Lewis. The Ravens were likely to give him a job, and that's why he lost his job. And I do not have a problem. I'm not one of these guys that has an enormous problem with him kneeling in and of itself. What I had a problem with was he didn't care that he was putting his political beliefs over the capacity for the 49ers to win a football game. He didn't care that all of his home field fans were booing him every time he went onto the field. So I had a problem with him elevating his personal politics above his team, and he subsequently.
All right, I hear you.
That's what I have.
What did I get right? What nuts did I find?
Khalil Mack, let me ask you this, okay? There are 5 defensive players in the NFL that are paid more than $17 million a year. Would you rather have the best cornerback in the league plus 2 first-round draft choices for 5 years? Because a mid-first-round draft choice makes, on average, $3.5 million a year over his 4 years of his contract, and then, of course, you also have a fifth-year option. So if you were the Oakland Raiders, would you rather have the best cornerback or the best linebacker in the league plus 2 first-rounders and fit them all under Khalil Mack's pay that he's getting from the Chicago Bears? I think I'd take 3 potentially really good defensive players, and even if I whiffed on one, I got the best cornerback plus a good first-rounder, or would I rather have Khalil Mack? And I think the answer, this is why so many NFL teams just never go anywhere. They make these stupid decisions, and they take an enormous percentage of their cap, and they give it to one guy, and that's what the Bears have done.
Right.
It's just idiotic from my vantage point.
Good stuff, Carlson. Thanks for the call, man. I think I'd take option 2 as well. I truly do. And I know I'm on an island here because I know every NFL analyst and every NFL player is like, what? What's up? You trade Khalil Mack? I just know the Raiders have paid David Carr. Just let it sit for a second. Just let it sit. Get mad for 1 second. The Raiders have paid Derek Carr. Derek Carr. That makes it hard to pay 2 guys, another guy on the other side of the ball. You got to manage your cap right. I think numerous teams in the NFL were calling about Khalil Mack. By all reports, it could have been as high as a dozen teams, including obviously the New York Jets, putting trade offers out there. And the Raiders just bumbled their way through it. I don't know, man. This was the deal. I mean, I'm surprised as well that they had to give back a second. I'm surprised they threw in a second with Khalil Mack. But 2 firsts, a third, and a 6th. I don't know. I think the Raiders got a decent deal. Maybe I'm alone. Maybe I'm a natural contrarian. Maybe I'm wrong. The Will Cain Show. Coming up next is Nike putting Kaepernick at the forefront of its new ad campaign. Nothing new for the sporting good giant. Next on The Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Nike has dove headfirst into one of the most divisive conversations, one of the thorniest issues in American politics. Headfirst with an endorsement campaign. The former quarterback Colin Kaepernick. But does Nike know what it's doing? Has Nike been here before? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Coming up in this hour, we'll talk about which college football fan bases after this first weekend of games could, probably will completely hit the panic button. Also, we're going to be talking about whether or not John Gruden should really, and the Oakland Raiders should really be raked over the coals for the Khalil Mack trade. And I'm going to give you my latest in the top 5 at 5 coming up a little bit later in the hour. But now, joining me on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line is Forbes national sports writer. He's also a sports contributor at MSNBC, and you can check out his website, tmoresports.com. It's Terrence Moore of Forbes. Terrence, thanks for jumping on with us. I read your column. So what you hold out on your column here is that this might be, on the surface, controversial, but Nike has been here before. They've done this, taken these, or stood by their controversial athletes at various times. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we all know about Tiger Woods. You go back to the Thanksgiving weekend episode 2009 when his wife chased him with the golf club, and you had all these other big time companies dropping him, but Nike stayed with him. Nike stayed with Tiger also. Remember 2017 in the spring with the DUI. You had the Kobe Bryant. Even though the rape charges were dropped, the Colorado rape charges back in 2003, you had other people abandoning him, but Nike stayed right there. And I'm pointing this out, Will, to say that, yeah, you can say that Nike is putting themselves out there as a force for good if you support Colin Kaepernick in his cause. But, the main thing that Nike is looking out for is Nike. They don't do anything without calculating how it's going to affect them in the long run. And as was the case with Tiger, the case with Kobe, it's also the case here with Colin Kaepernick. They think that in the long run, this is going to help them financially.
Oh, that's fascinating, Terrence. Let me push back on two angles there. I want to come back to the last point second on Nike's bottom line. First, the comparison with Tiger and with Kobe. It seems fundamentally different to me. We're talking to Terrence Moore of Forbes.com, their national sports writer. It seems fundamentally different to me, Terrence. With both Tiger and Kobe, you had two things. Number one, both transcended athletes. I mean, unquestionably top of their game in their sports, global superstars, right? Kaepernick's not that. At least not for any of his exploits on the field. He might have high Q rating or name recognition, but he's not Kobe. He's not Tiger. And second, the issues with Tiger and Kobe were personal issues. Controversies, yes, but running afoul of the law. Things that could tarnish Nike's brand because of behavior. With Kaepernick, it's purely political. It's purely that something that you could say this might really divide. I don't know what percentage, but let's just back the envelope it and say 50% of our customer base. That seems to me new ground for Nike.
Well, I'm going to slightly push back on the pushback by saying this.
All right, cool.
And you bring up some valid points. But, I mean, as you know, being in the media, it's always that all-important demographic group of 18 to 34. That's what everybody is fighting for, okay? And I look at this the same way I look at hip-hop music. Who buys the majority of the hip-hop music? And that's white youngsters, certainly between that age group of between 18 and 34. And Kaepernick is kind of in that category. He's sort of like, and that group, okay, that group is highly supportive of Kaepernick. He's very much like a rap star. And certainly you've got a lot of young folks who agree with his points, the fact that he's a guy that's standing for something, for social injustice and a very principled thing. So to me, it's very much the same thing in the fact that Nike, whether different circumstances with Tiger and obviously with Kobe and with this, but the same principle holds for Nike. They're looking at the long run, and again, you always got to go with the financial aspect of it. They're gambling on the long run, and they're willing to take the hits in the short run. It's just like I guess today that stock prices dropped like 3.2%.
But
that's nothing in the grand scheme of things.
And so have other shoe companies today. So I don't know that that's evidence of anything yet. Terrence Moore here on the Will Cain Show. Okay, but Terrence, I want you to hear me out, and I'm sure you're going to disagree with me on things here that I'm going to say, but such is life. Listen, okay, you're sitting here telling me Nike's always concerned about their bottom line. I agree. We got to get that, and we got to be realists about it. To me, Terrence, that's an indictment. That's not a good endorsement. That's a problem to me. Okay, here's what I mean. I know what Colin Kaepernick's protests have been about. I've listened to him about the unarmed killing of black men and the perceived injustice and lack of accountability for police officers. But I also know this protest over the last 3 years has taken many forms. It's taken, in Malcolm Jenkins' case, about prison reform. For other players, an anti-Trump position in response to Trump's message or tweets. It's taken many forms. And this latest, because it's so amorphous, the protest, it's now become part of Nike's bottom line. That can't be good to me, Terrence, for any kind of movement for an issue you believe in. Do you disagree with me that now a company's bottom line is driving a protest?
Here's something else that got to be pointed out. Okay, going into last year, and of course I'm sure that you got very educated viewers and listeners out there where, and everybody knows what's going on right now. Colin Kaepernick has been a free agent now for 2 years. Hadn't played in the National Football League since he was back with the San Francisco 49ers, again, 2 seasons ago. Yet going into last year, in September of 2017, there was a 3-month period where the highest-selling jersey or any kind of paraphernalia for a 49er player was Colin Kaepernick, the guy who was no longer on the team. And again, I'm just throwing that out there to say that this is what Nike's looking at. Now, I'm not going to say that it's necessarily going to work. I'm just kind of projecting to how they view this thing. And then as far as like the social thing and there is obviously from a political standpoint, as we all know, there's a hardcore group that is supportive of whatever this president does, whether it's 38%, 39%, or what have you. Well, if you do quick math, that's 60% of that's going the other way. So it's not as if that all of this is having that much of an effect as people think. And one more quick thing, Will, that nobody points out. Everybody talks about the 10% drop in TV ratings last year, okay? And we've all heard that. But nobody talks about that after last season, the National Football League made more money in television revenues than it had at any time in its existence. It was $8.1 billion, okay?
I know.
So a lot of
you're right. You're right, Terrence.
Is overrated.
This is what I'm struggling with, Terrence, and I don't know if you've ever listened to me, and you might disagree with me on many things, but I can tell you this isn't coming from a place of really honestly opposition and certainly not malevolence. This is what I'm struggling with, man, honestly. As you describe Colin's jersey being one of the top selling jerseys, as you talk about Nike being concerned about its bottom line, I can't help but think there's something. It's the concept of selling out. That's what it is. It's when something goes mainstream, when it gets monetized, commercialized, when a protest. I don't know of revolutionaries who have endorsements from multinational corporations. And there's an element to all of this, your own shoe line. And we don't know if that's going to happen for sure or not. But it's just like, this was with the end goal. This was where it was all going to end up. It just doesn't sit right. It doesn't seem right, Terrence.
Well, now, Will, this is where we're going to agree. Okay, I'm with you 100% on that. Okay. And I'm probably a little bit older than you, but I am a guy that just gets very almost teary-eyed thinking about the sacrifices of, say, Jackie Robinson. Okay, and I just, as much credit and publicity Jackie Robinson's gotten through the years, I don't think he even gets enough yet to this day. And not only because of what he did on April 15th, 1947, I'm talking about the Jackie Robinson after his playing career. The Jackie Robinson that marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in South Georgia. I mean, you look at a guy like Jim Brown, how outspoken he was in the 60s, or the guy that gets overlooked, I think, in all of this with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Muhammad Ali. The guy that, to me, that gets overlooked is Arthur Ashe. He was huge.
Right.
So this is where I think we're going to be in agreement. They did that out of the goodness of their heart, and there certainly was not a shoe deal or I guess what the other thing that Nike is doing with Kaepernick, that donating X amount of money to his fund, one of his funds.
Yep.
Yeah, that certainly was not going on in the 60s.
I got to run, Terrence. I appreciate the conversation. I don't know. Apparently, President Trump has now weighed in. He's tweeted or said something. All right. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Terrence.
Thank you.
That's Forbes national sports writer Terrence Moore on the Will Cain Show. There, you just heard me. President Trump's weighed in on Kaepernick's Nike endorsement. I'll read it for you next when you come back. Plus, which college football program got the harshest dose of reality this weekend? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
So vaping is pretty popular right now. No ash, no odor, no brainer. But sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. So Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing MyBlue. MyBlue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With MyBlue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. You have a range of delicious flavors to choose from. Just 20 minutes to charge, and you're set all day. Plus, it comes with a free limited lifetime device warranty called MyCare. Ready to make the switch? Try MyBlue today at MyBlue.com. Not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
President Trump has commented on Nike, including Colin Kaepernick, as part of its reboot, 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. Here's what President Trump has said. I think it's a terrible message. Nike is a tenant of mine. They pay a lot of rent. President Trump told the Daily Caller today on Tuesday. By the way, it's Nike Town. It's located at Trump's 6 East 57th Street, New York City location. Trump goes on, but I think it's a terrible message that they're sending and the purpose of them doing it. Maybe there's a reason for them doing it. But I think as far as sending a message, I think it's a terrible message and a message that shouldn't be sent. There's no reason for it. As much as I disagree with Colin Kaepernick endorsement, in another way, I wouldn't have done it, Trump said. In another way, it's what this country is all about. That you have certain freedoms to do things that other people think you shouldn't do. But I personally am on a different side of it. There's President Trump on Colin Kaepernick's new endorsement campaign with Nike. I've said various times today, look, I don't think the protests which took center stage some 3 years ago, I don't think that arriving at a place where it is culminating in an endorsement of a multinational global organization whose bottom line is the bottom line, I don't think that's a moment necessarily of celebration. I don't think for even those who are on the Kaepernick side versus the Trump side, you can look at that and go, that's where this whole thing should have been headed. I think it's a symptom of a protest that remained amorphous. Yes, it was about the unarmed killing of black men, but at various times it was about prison reform, and at other times it was about President Trump. And isn't it inevitable at some point it becomes about Nike's bottom line? But still, I don't work up the level of outrage of the people out there obviously burning their Nikes on social media, or even those that are upset about it. I'm not upset about it. Not upset about Nike, not upset about Kaepernick. The only thing I would say is this. The idea that Kaepernick sacrificed everything, that to me was a misstep. That's a message that could upset people. And that a message, understandably, people be like, really? Becoming the spokesman for Nike? Getting a multi-million-dollar endorsement campaign with Nike? Giving up a pro football career? That's sacrificing everything? I understand people to go, please, put that in context. Even on these issues, look at guys. You don't have to do the military thing. You don't have to talk about the people who've given up their life. You can even talk about the people who gave up in the fight for civil rights, much more than the everything it's insinuated Colin Kaepernick gave up. It's just a little much to say Colin Kaepernick sacrificed everything. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. There were several big-time losses in college football this past weekend. Several. Obviously, my Texas Longhorns lost once again to the University of Maryland, and that will make you feel like you're spinning in mud. Hard to see optimism when you lose to Maryland, a coachless Maryland, twice. Michigan, once again, can't win the big game, and once again, looks like it has offensive and quarterback troubles. Florida State was absolutely inept against Virginia Tech, and Miami, once again, lost to a big-time program, and like Michigan, Texas, didn't have quarterback play. Which one of these programs should rightfully freak out right here, one game into the college football season? Which one has a legit reason to hit the panic button? Now, I understand when it comes to Michigan and Texas, it looked like the way it's looked like for far too long. 500 ball for Texas for a decade. Michigan losing big games. But if I'm telling you which one I think is the truth serum, which one tells you something about which one of these teams really looks like what you saw this weekend, it's Miami. Miami may go 9-4. 8-3. 8-4. 12 games. Miami may end up in the ACC championship game, but they'll lose the big games once again. They'll play through the weak ACC. They don't have the team. They don't have the quarterback. They don't have the ability to beat big-time teams. I'm afraid Miami's game against LSU was the biggest dose of truth serum for any of those programs. Coming up, can Jim Harbaugh get Michigan, though, to a level where they're competing for titles? Can he finally get them over the hump, or has he been figured out? That's next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Everybody wants to hit the panic button. Everybody in college football. Miami, Michigan, Florida State, Texas. Who deserves to really freak out? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Joining me now is ESPN's college football insider, Adam Rittenberg, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Adam covers the Big Ten in particular. He's plugged in there. Let me ask you a question, Adam. I'm pretty plugged into what's going on in Texas. I know the level of freak out down in Austin. What's the level of freak out after Michigan loses to Notre Dame, once again loses another big game with no offense and seeming, for now, no answer to their quarterback issues?
It's certainly up there. I think everyone's wondering, is Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat? I don't think he is at all because of his contract situation, but there's certainly angst building among Michigan fans after seeing an offense that quite frankly resembled the one they saw at the end of last year, despite having a new quarterback in there in Shea Patterson. Now, it certainly was not all on Patterson against Notre Dame, as they had some of the same issues, whether it was too much scheme or not enough protection for sure. And that's not just the offensive line, but the backs and the tight ends really had a hard time containing Notre Dame's rushers, especially when they brought extra rushers. And then they weren't stretching the field. I mean, they had that 52-yard completion to Nico Collins on the first play of the second half, but that was their longest play by more than double. There was nothing else over 24 yards. And as you know, it's very hard to win, especially on the road against a good team, when you're not making enough big plays.
Adam, what do you think in all seriousness? What's the temperature of Jim Harbaugh's seat? I mean, is it ice cold? I mean, fans, like you said,
the thing
can
that
have
we
a
have
little
to
bit
always
of
remember is there's the feeling in the moment, which is Michigan can't win big games. Oh my God, everything is a mess. And you have to look at the contract situation, which is very different. Michigan obviously has a lot of money, but to get rid of Jim Harbaugh would be just an incredible sum of money, unless he ends up leaving for another job. So I still think he has the support of Ward Manuel, the athletic director, and much of the administration. And the other thing too to keep in mind is that Michigan's last two coaches lasted 3 years and 4 years respectively. So do you want to get into this pattern where you're changing coaches every few years for a program like Michigan that had long tenures for both Schembechler and Lloyd Carr and other championship-level coaches? I don't think they want to get into that game. So it's just early. They have to be better on offense. They still have the Big Ten race ahead of them, a league that I think they can still win if certain adjustments are made. But I think, the angst level among fans is certainly there. I just don't think it's realistic to put Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat.
Right, so it's basically angst among fans. Adam Rittenberg here on the Will Cain Show. I had Greg McElroy on a little bit earlier, Adam. He said, look, we can't reevaluate everything after week one. You can't tell me the Big Ten's no good all of a sudden because Penn State has a tight game and Michigan State has a tight game. Michigan loses. But are you a little surprised? Looking at Penn State, Michigan State, I thought the Big Ten, I'm telling you, and I'm not ready to write them off after 1 week, but I am a little surprised at the struggles I saw from Penn State and Michigan State. I'm even surprised with the amount of yards and offense Oregon State put up on Ohio State.
Right, a lot of that was against second, third, and fourth teamers with Ohio State, but I agree with you on the Penn State, certainly Penn State and Michigan State. Penn State was very fortunate to win that game, and they did not play well defensively in the fourth quarter, and they needed some fortunate things to happen for them to come out of that game at 1-0. The same with Michigan State, maybe not to that level of an extreme, almost losing, but they were not sharp at all against Utah State, and And this week, both of those teams go on the road and face losable games. I mean, Michigan State traveling all the way to Tempe to face Arizona State. It's going to be 100 degrees at kickoff. Michigan State not used to that type of heat. And then Penn State going on the road to Pitt, and it's sort of Pitt's Super Bowl. They won that game a couple of years ago against the Nittany Lions in Pittsburgh. So I think we'll find out this week if there was kind of a week one. You always have some mistakes week one, or whether these are sustained issues, not just for those teams, but maybe for the conference, and maybe that division that we all celebrated coming into the year isn't quite as strong as we thought it would be.
Right. All right, I'm going to ask you the same question, last question for you, Adam, that I've asked of everybody. If I give you all the losses, Florida State, Miami, Texas, Michigan, Tennessee, for that matter, which one of these programs and one of these losses do you think deserves the panic button the most?
I think it was Florida State. I know it's a new staff. I know that they have new systems, but to struggle that much on your home field in a coaching debut with the national spotlight on you is very troublesome. Miami too, but especially Florida State. 3 points with Willie Taggart as your coach against a Virginia Tech team that hadn't had a very good offseason and was very young at certain spots. I really expected so much more from Florida State. So, I think those other losses, teams can move past them. I'm not so sure with Florida State if that's the way you're going to start a new tenure for Coach Willie Taggart.
All right, ESPN's college football insider Adam Rittenberg. Appreciate your time today, man.
Thanks, Will.
The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. And just a little bit, by the way, everybody's stealing our top 5. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking here. We invented the top 5. Like, no one was doing this stuff before the Will Cain Show. We come out here, we start doing top 5s. Before I know it, First Take's running top 5s. Everybody's stealing top 5s. So coming up a little bit later in the show, my top 5 game animals to hunt. Tyrone in New Jersey. You've been holding for a long time, man. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Tyrone?
What's up, Will Cain? I want to call in and ask you one major question about our beloved Cowboys. What is taking Jerry Jones so long to go get Earl Thomas?
I don't know, Tyrone. At this point, you got to figure it's just not going to happen, right? I mean, if it was going to happen, it was going to happen. Seattle's not going to give him away. That's what's obvious. They want real compensation in trade. And I don't know, man. You know what blew me away, Tyrone? Here's the deal. Cutting Dan Bailey to save $3 million. Now, Dan Bailey, the kicker, who's been the most accurate? Is Dan Bailey the most accurate
second most
kicker in NFL history?
Second most.
Second most in NFL history, Bubba?
Right. Yeah.
And most in franchise history. Now, he's declined. He went from 95% to like 85% to 75%. And he made like over $3 million a year. But the point I'm getting at here when it comes to Earl Thomas is the Cowboys have cap room. I mean, they have something I think around $19 million a year in cap room. They have the ability to afford it, at least in financial capital, if not draft capital. But if Khalil Mack cost you 2 1s, a 3, and a 5, what does Earl Thomas cost you? Something south of that, something less than that. But the exorbitant price for Khalil Mack might be the answer, Tyrone, on what's taking Jerry so long. If that's the going rate for a defensive end, what's the going rate for a safety? A lot more than I would have expected. I'm going to guess that. I don't think Earl Thomas is going to be a Cowboy. Especially, by the way, why would you trade for him a year out from him being a free agent? He's a year out from being a free agent, so why sell the farm now to bring Earl Thomas in? I think Earl Thomas is going to be a Seattle Seahawk this year. We'll see about a year out. We'll see about a year from now. By the way, are the Raiders clueless? They're just ahead of the curve on Khalil Mack, trading him at that price. Plus, my top 5 animals to hunt. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. So, top 5 lists are proliferating across the network. Of course, we here at the Will Cain Show pioneered the top 5 list. I believe before our launch in January, nobody really thought about, hey, what if you take your 5, we'll just go with 5 favorite things, be it running backs, quarterbacks, and listed them. Then we could talk about it, debate them. I was like, you know what? That's new ground we're pioneering here. That is Genius Radio. And we've been doing it here. Top 5 in the 5, and you're going to see that proliferating across the network. But despite the fact that we invented the top 5 list, nobody is going to do them like us. In just a moment here, my top 5 game animals to hunt. But first, Kenyon from Austin, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, what's going on, Will? All right.
What's up?
So the Nike thing, I have a problem with. You said they jumped into a political issue. They didn't jump into a political issue. They jumped into a social issue. The president made it political, not Nike. It's just a social issue, and he's using Nike as his microphone. They took his microphone away when they took the NFL away from him. And you said they
Kenyon,
also.
Let me ask you a question. What's the difference between a social issue and a political issue? What's the difference?
Because he was trying to change social changes as far as the way the police are handled and things like that. The president made it.
But how do you do that?
You can do it with laws, or you can do it on a lower level. You can do social change just from the people in the community. Those are social changes that the community can affect.
That's true.
Your community can affect your social changes. The president made it a big political issue that became very divisive when he decided to add his comments into it and make it into a bigger issue than it was. And it wasn't that many people doing it, but he made it into this big
Can I offer you this, man?
Talking point.
And I'm not playing a word game with you. I think the word you're looking for is not political. I think the word you're looking for is partisan. Okay? Because here's the deal. You're right. First of all, you can affect change in society in ways other than political. You're right. You can do things within your community. You're right that would be social change. But there is also obviously part of Kaepernick's protest, part of this movement that is seeking to change laws. That is political. Anytime you want to change laws, you're going through the political process. You're going to have disagreement. It's going to be debated. It's going to be voted upon. That is political. What you're talking about is whether or not something is partisan. Is it left, right, Republican, Democrat? The truth of the matter is it is a political conversation. It can be social as well, but to pretend like when Kaepernick entered this, he wasn't entering the political fray is to try to wash your hands of the process it takes to make change. Is try to say you're not the one doing that. You're just benignly doing something that everybody can sign up for. Social change. Who's against social change? But the truth of the matter is this. While you can affect social change, we all know that political change was part of it. And once you get into that arena, you better be ready for the messy work, which includes the debate, the fight, the process. When I say political, I was right. I was accurate. I know what words I choose. I choose them wisely. I didn't say partisan. The president can make it partisan, but it's still political. Jason from Alabama, you're on the Will Cain Show.
What's up, Will?
What's up?
No, I'm choosing my words wisely. I love Texas, but they suck.
Okay, all right, man.
they're terrible, man. And for you to say that all those other games, the LSU and the Miami and all that stuff, you should be freaking out because Maryland is terrible. Maryland is so terrible. I'll tell you what, Matt Canada is a genius, though. He is a very good offense coordinator and maybe a head coach.
Are they terrible or are they run by a genius? Are they terrible or are they run by a genius? You can't have it both ways.
In your case, man, I'll tell you, run by a genius because it'll make you feel better. Because Texas is terrible. But I really do want your feedback on it. But I want to ask you one question before I let you go because I'm a big fan of the backup quarterback. I think his name is Buechele. Why? He started as a freshman. What happened to that guy? Because I really, really thought he was going to be a star, a stud.
He just got beat. Honestly, he got beat by Ehlinger. Appreciate the call, man. Here's the thing. Like, in the moment, I feel the same way as you. All right? I look at him like, we're terrible. We just lost to Maryland for the second time. And this time they don't even have a coach. But same I feel about Texas is the same I feel about Ehlinger. He's got something in his bag. He's got some moxie. But he's turned the ball over 4 times for 4 losses on the final drive, from fumbles against USC to interceptions against Maryland. And that has to stop. I'm not sure if you go away from Ehlinger, the answer is Buechele. There's 2 freshman studs out there as well. But I'm not giving up on Ehlinger. I'm not giving up on Texas. And I'm sure as hell not giving up on Tom Herman. I think there's more time that's needed. I think 15 games into it is a little bit early. All right? You can tell me about Nick Saban, and you can tell me about Urban Meyer and how quickly they do their turnaround projects, but I'm ready to give a little bit more time, no matter how exasperated I am, because I recognize this. My exasperation is more than the last year. My exasperation is built on more than 7-7. That's Herman's record. My exasperation is built upon 8 years of this crap. All right? And I got to give Herman more time than 1 year. I can't penalize him for things done 7 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago. That's why I'm not pushing the panic button like in this moment right now. On Saturday, yes, and maybe next Saturday again. But today, I choose to be an optimist. All right, my top 5 in the 5. Top 5. Game animals to hunt. Take it away, Bubba.
The top 5.
List radio talk is terrible.
In the 5.
Before I get started, is Christine Lisi in the update booth right now? Cerruti?
I am.
What did you say about me in the commercial break? I'm hearing rumors and gossip.
I said,
what did you say?
I said Will Hunts. I made a snap judgment on you, and I apologize. I asked Steve if I said Will Hunts, and he said yes. And I said he doesn't strike me as the type of person who hunts. I'm sorry.
What? No, you didn't say that. You have to be honest with the American people. You said, I would be surprised if Will ever handled a gun.
I didn't say that part. Steve, what are you doing? I did. I'm sorry.
What is it? Is it my rugged nature threw you off? I mean, my
I know you're from Texas, but you seem very New York cosmopolitan now.
Yes, it's a huge insult.
Cut her mic.
And I love you, my friend. I do.
Insult. I don't know. That hurts really.
You're so
really
Cosmo, Will.
Bad.
Pardon me?
Well, he said I'm so Cosmo. You've hurt me to my core. To my core. Badly. And after spending a weekend in Odessa, it's time for me to get back to Texas. I got to get this done the next minute. Top 5 game animals to hunt. Number 1, or number 5 at least, the greatest game, of course, human beings. That is the greatest game to hunt. Number 4, hog hunting. Hog hunting is pretty fun. It's not the most sporting because you can catch them around the deer feeder often, but they can be large and a nuisance. And it can be fun to go hog hunting and get yourself some bacon. But my real favorites are these 3 right here. Bird hunting, start to finish. Number 3, quail hunting. Get you some good dogs. Go for a walk with your buddies. Have a nice conversation. Make sure not to swing the gun when they fly past you. Number 2, I thought I was going to go dove hunting this weekend, and that's where this list came from. Dove hunting is beer drinking, talking, of course, within moderation, and target practice, shooting fast-moving things through the air. But the best hunting of all, number 1, duck hunting. The process, the cold, the getting up early, the laying out the birds, the calling them. Duck hunting, the best hunting out there. I would like